All eyes on the White House and a crumbling nuclear deal with Iran. That is according to a new report out of Reuters, who says Tehran is expected to reject a U.S. proposal to end a decades-old nuclear dispute. The reasoning: U.S. demands to scrap uranium enrichment, that's material used to make nuclear weapons. President Trump doubling down on that in social media. He said, quote, "The auto pen should have stopped Iran a long time ago from enriching. Under our potential agreement, we will not allow any enrichment of uranium." Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. And Olivia, what does each side want here?
Well, Mugo, the U.S. side of this is simple. President Trump has said he wants no enrichment of uranium from the Iranians, a denuclearization from them, and in exchange, the U.S. will lift some of those crippling sanctions that have been on Iran since the first Trump administration. Iran, in return, says that they still want to be able to keep up their enrichment programs. They say they do it for peaceful reasons, but they want more clarity from the U.S. of what these sanctions they would be lifting look like, what the timeline would be, and that's pretty much where this stands right now. We know that the U.S. sent the most recent detailed proposal to the Iranians on Saturday through Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to the Omanis, who have been kind of an intermediary in these negotiations. But as you mentioned, that Reuters report, it seems unlikely that Iran is going to accept this latest proposal.
And just going off of that into our next question here, Olivia, do we know exactly where things stand right now in terms of negotiations?
Well, we know that they had most recently their fifth round of talks in Rome, and we're told that this detailed report came as a result of that. We know that Special Envoy Witkoff has really been going at these negotiations alone, having them with the Omanis and the Iranians, and as a result, this was the latest proposal that the U.S. sent to them. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, declined to give any details of what was exactly in the proposal. There were some reports out there, conflicting reports of whether it was low enrichment or no enrichment, but the president cleared that up yesterday, saying no enrichment at all, ever. So we know that was given to them at least over the weekend, but again, we are hearing from the Iranians through that report that they're poised to reject this potential deal, saying that, one, it's unclear, and two, they feel that they should have a right to enrichment under, the guise of their own administration and their goals. So that's kind of where this stands right now. We'll have to continue to see if there is a sixth round of negotiations and conversations between Witkoff and any other negotiators as well. But again, it seems they're in a little bit of a stalemate right now, just a bit of a holding pattern.
Yeah. And we're also waiting to hear more about an expected phone call between President Trump and President Xi Jinping of China. What are the two leaders likely to talk about here?
Well, certainly those tariffs that have been the topic of conversation for the last several months. But more importantly, last week, President Trump said that China was, they were not in accordance, that they had violated that trade truce that they had put in place in Geneva on May 12th. That trade truce was supposed to give a 90-day extension on those reciprocal tariffs that went up to 125% up until August, and in turn they would allow them to have these hard negotiations. But Trump says they're violating these trade truce because they're not easing those export restrictions on rare earth minerals. That's a very critical part of the American economy because we only have one mine here that does rare earth minerals. Meanwhile, China really has a strong corner on that market. There's some estimates that even between 2020 and 2023, about 70% of the rare earth mineral imports into the U.S. came from China. So the goal of the administration was to really ease those restrictions on those rare earth minerals. That's what Trump says they have not done, and therefore they're violating that trade truce that was in place. So as a result, there's supposed to be this conversation between President Trump and Xi Jinping. Mind you, these two men have not spoken since before Trump got in office on January 17th. A lot has changed since then, so there's certainly a lot that they'll need to talk about, but this is clearly top of mind, Mugo.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of that conversation. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much for your time today.